Now I would request our final panelists to come on the stage. First, I would love Arnoud Passionnier, advisor at the Netherlands Ministry of Infrastructure, leading circular economy strategies. Adding insights is Bob Eisenberg, fund director at Good Fashion Fund Financing Circularity. We have Professor Kim Poldner, an academic driving circular innovation. Sharing crucial industry perspective is Abdullah Hilraki from BDMEA and Team Group. Also joining us is Simon Noel, CEO of Recycling Pioneers Upcycle Labs. Next, we have Priyanka Khanna from Fashion for Good, Connecting Innovators. Please let us welcome this honorable panelist on the stage. This panel will be moderated by Fleur Meerman, Advisory Boards ACR and Open Supply Hub. Thank you. Hi. Yeah, honorable moderator, the stage is yours. Thank you so much.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to this last and final session. I'd like to invite the people in the back to just come forward a bit and please take a seat. You're so far away. The closer you are, the better it is. This is the last panel. Before we start, I'd really like to say a big word of thank you to the Best of Bangladesh team for organizing this great event and for having brought together so many different stakeholders to discuss future of Bangladesh and also sustainability. Today's session will be on sustainable synergy, circular economy, climate action, and Bangladesh's future. And we will discuss today on what is needed to actually move to a more circular economy, to secure Bangladesh's future, but not just Bangladesh's future, but also the future of the brands. As we are reaching and even exceeding limits of Earth, our take, make, waste economy has led to widespread resource depletion and climate change. And I think this has especially a big effect on Bangladesh as it faces immense climate change challenges stemming from its vulnerability to natural disasters and rising sea levels. And I think we all have seen the news in Chittagong a few weeks ago, extreme weather events like floods, cyclones, and storms have a really big effect on the lives and the livelihoods of people in Bangladesh, but also on economic assets in the country. And it's actually estimated that around 2% of the GDP of Bangladesh is lost, or there's economic loss because of these climate change impacts. At the same time, we know that there's an imperative for rapid economic development to move Bangladesh up and to grow as an economy. But I mean, this growth path needs to be balanced with the prosperity of environmental sustainability. So what we're going to talk about today is how can we pursue synergies between the rapid economic, or how can we pursue synergies between the circular economy and the climate action? And I think that is crucial. And I think the circular economy can help us to deal with that, to stay within the planetary boundaries and to secure Bangladesh's future, but also that of brands. The question is, how can we do it? And I hope that our distinguished panelists today will start giving an answer to that, but not just them. Also, you in the audience will have an opportunity to ask questions. And the panelists, who I will introduce shortly, they have a really diverse background and expertise, ranging from policy to strategies, technology, financing, partnerships. So you will hear about that more. But before we start, I think it's really good to know who's also in the room, because their answers can be tailored more on who's here. And I know we're almost finished, but I would like to get a little bit of energy here. So first of all, I'd like to ask who is representing brands, not suppliers, brands. Brands, yes, one. Are you enthusiastic? Yeah. Who is representing suppliers? Suppliers? Yeah? 5? Not so enthusiastic. NGOs? Ooh, big part here. NGOs. Investors? Yeah? Who am I missing? Did I miss anyone? No. Yeah? Who are you representing? Government. I'm sorry. Of course, governments. Okay, so we have all the groups here. I'm very happy to hear that. Let me just shortly introduce our panelists. I'd like to start with Arnaud Passanier. He's a strategic international advisor on circular economy at the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management in the Netherlands. You played a key role in the Denim Deal, which is also about innovative technologies. And you have also always been supporting collaborations and support to make impact happen. Your focus now is on international relations regarding circularity. I think we're really happy to have you on the panel because it is about the international environment that we're talking about. Thank you for being here. I'd like to move to Bob Assenberg, all the way at the end. He's the fund director of Good Fashion Fund. And actually that is a fund that invests mainly in emerging markets. And you try to invest in initiatives that do more than just to get financial returns. And that kind of relates to the panel that Marta was also just moderating. It's not just doing good, but it's also making money and combining the two. You get really excited about impact. And you feel there's a big role for brands here. And to commit themselves also for longer term to suppliers to make the impact. So I'm sorry, sir, you're the only one in the room here. But there is a concrete message for you here. Then I'd like to move to Abdullah Hil Rakib. I hope I pronounced it well. Managing Director of Team Group and Director at the BGMEA. We talked yesterday, and you believe it's really important that brands and suppliers actually exchange and understand each other and jointly look for solutions like what is needed to get to the circular economy. Too often it's just brands selling, here it is, this is our goal, this is our target, and good luck. So we'd like to hear more from you about that later on. Then we move to the lady almost at the end, Kim Poltner. She's Professor Circular Business at The Hague University for Applied Sciences. And she has a PhD in sustainable fashion, and as she says it herself, she has a passion for fashion. She has had that all her life, and before she started her academic career, she was also an entrepreneur, or she is an entrepreneur. She had the first eco-store in the Netherlands, and maybe what's interesting to know is that her green wardrobe, including an upcycled wedding dress, was exhibited during an exhibition in the Netherlands, so she really lives it. Priyanka Khanna, she's the head of Asia Expansion, Fashion for Good. Fashion for Good is a global initiative to inspire change and drive the collective movement to make fashion a force for good. And you and your team are working hard to scale innovative technologies in the supply chain of the brands. And well, she believes that supply chain leadership can play a really important role in finding the synergies between the circular economy and climate change. And we're also going to hear more about that, like what does that look like and what do we expect of suppliers, let's say. And there's a lot of them in the room, so that is good, and also representatives of suppliers. And then last but not least, Simon, all the way from the UK, CEO of Upcycle Labs. It's a company where you make new products out of waste, and basically you take unsold stuff, you destroy it, grind it down, and mold it into new products. And with your business, you try to accelerate the fashion's transition from linear to a circular business model. And currently, you're only active in the UK, but you see great opportunities to go to new countries like Bangladesh. So I think that's also interesting to see where can we find synergies there. Sorry, a lot of talk from my side. I think it's time to get to the panel because they are the experts. Kim, if I can start with you. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for synergies between the circular economy and climate action, and then in relation to Bangladesh? And can you, before you go into that detail, kind of help us a bit, like what is it when we talk about circular economy?
Yes, thank you for giving me the floor. I think the simplest explanation of circular economy is that at the moment we're living in a linear economy where we extract precious resources from our planet Earth, we produce artifacts out of it, consume them, and then when we're done with them or they're broken, we trash them, right? So that's the linear model that we're still living, unfortunately, take, make, waste. And within a circular economy, we really want to keep those precious resources in the loop, okay? But that it's much more than just recycling, for example, your garment when you're done wearing it. It means a lot of other important things that we need to look at. So, for example, the Netherlands has the ambition to be fully circular by 2050. The Dutch government has this ambition. And that requires also that we look at different types of business models, because if we want to keep those resources in the loop, we need to innovate our business models, right? So we see here in the Netherlands a rise in second-hand fashion. We see a lot of effort going into textile recycling. We see the extended producer responsibility taking charge recently. But that also requires...
I'm not sure if everybody knows what is
extended producer responsibility. Yeah. So that means that producers that bring garments or textiles to the Dutch market remain responsible for these post-consumer phase.
Okay.
So even when they're trashed or disposed of by the consumer, these producers still need to take care of what happens next with these textiles, right? So imagine that, you know, in 2050, the whole of the Netherlands is wearing second-hand fashion, like myself, for example, or, you know, is recycling all the textiles and garments that we have in our little country. That has its impact on Bangladesh, obviously. So one of the first questions I would ask is, are there any opportunities to look with manufacturers in Bangladesh, with people working in the factory, to see what type of opportunities there would be for business model innovation on that side of the supply chain?
Yeah. And you talk about the ambition in 2050 of the Netherlands to have 100% circular products.
Yeah.
It's 2% right now.
Yeah.
Just look in the audience. Who has something in their wardrobe that is circular? Can you raise your hand? Okay. I think we're quite well represented here. But basically what you're saying, Kim, is that the impact of this ambition is huge, also on Bangladesh and the workforce. And if that means if we're going to wear more recycled clothes, or that will have an effect on the workforce, and we need to look at that as well.
Definitely. But I also see many other opportunities. In the previous panel, we talked about putting solar panels on the factories in Bangladesh. To me, yes, that is a solution for now, but I call it a Horizon 2 solution. Bill Sharp has developed this 3-horizon model where Horizon 1 is business as usual, so that's the linear economy where we are today. Yeah. Horizon 3 is a more regenerative future, where we really want to, for example, generate electricity out of plants and not out of solar panels that will cause a lot of waste in 20 years from now, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I think for Bangladesh, for example, explore opportunities between agriculture and fashion, because you can, you know, grow tomatoes and you can make textiles out of your tomato plants. So I think there's so many fascinating opportunities there.
Yeah. So your goal is also to look at the longer term. I mean, we need to make changes now, but also look at the horizon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Simon. If I can just move to you. Hey, you're the CEO of an innovative startup. You want to contribute to this change from linear to circular. What do you need, or from your perspective, what is needed to grow the business and to actually make a significant contribution to this change?
Absolutely. And Kim mentioned just now about exciting innovations. I think one of the things that's really struck me is that innovators need to be able to combine with other innovators. We can set about this great ambition to create a more circular economy, or even go beyond that. But as an individual business, we can only be one small segment of that. And what's been really clear to me as I pursued this venture is just how much we need to be able to kind of collaborate with others. And I know that, and we've talked about this as a group before, that simply saying collaboration might sound a bit weak. What does that actually mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's not collaborating just for the sake of it. It's actually trying to push each other to develop new innovations, to help others understand the challenges that each business faces at different points in the cycle. And that actually prompts and spurs on further innovation. We've got an initial concept of what we want to do as a business to put fashion waste to use, ensure that it has an extended life. But we could do that even better if we're able to kind of partner and develop other innovations with other businesses. Some of the materials and the ingredients that we use at the moment, there could be much better ways to acquire those and to develop them. So that kind of cluster, that network of innovation is really vital. And anything that we can do to help facilitate that, bring different innovators together, allow that kind of thought development process to take place is really vital.
And do you mean, if you talk about different innovators together, it's just the technology people, or you're also talking about the suppliers to understand like how you could collaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the full network. I think, taking a step back, what's interesting for me is my background wasn't initially in this space. I've worked in startups before, but those are pure commercial, if you like, not something that, for example, an impact investor that would be interested in. And so what's really distinct about this space is that we're trying to change the system, not simply create a good commercial venture. And so I was pleased to see that there's a decent amount of NGO representation in the audience. It would be great if there was even more governmental representation. But the kind of second point that I was going to emphasize is how there's such a big role for those stakeholders in this, in terms of really pricing in the cost of the current model in terms of the damage to the environment is critical. The role that legislation plays, and it's good to see that over the summer there have been lots of developments from the EU Commission around intentions there to kind of change the game really, in terms of the landscape. We need more of that, and we need it faster. And it's also putting public money to work in investing in science and development, and that does exist already, but I think the kind of message from me here is we need more of it, and we need it faster to help really address the kind of burning platform issues that we've got.
Yeah, interesting. I think Arnoud could say something in reply, and I'm sure. Sorry. Abdullah, you can also give a reply on that, but maybe Arnoud, you want to start, because there was a clear call for the government to take action here.
For sure. I think, well, the government has different roles in this. So, of course, supporting innovations to come to the market and to scale up and replicate, that there the government can help. But at the same time, it's for the industry, in a competitive world, very difficult to change their business model. So for that, I think change of regulations, change in market incentives, so taxation on the one hand and subsidizing on the other hand, is one element in which the government can help. Also in providing the right legal framework for financiers, to make it easier for financiers to invest in new innovations, and because of unknown risks in the future, and there is no history of innovations. What are they doing in the market? So that's always a problem with the financiers, with innovations, and how to support that. So the government can do there a lot, and we in the Netherlands are working on that as well. Also together with private financial institutions and also multinational development banks like the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, etc. So that's something which we could do as well. But in the end, it's also, we have to provide the right legal framework to set the new standards of the future. And that goes beyond the existing business models. So in the Netherlands, we launched our new national program for circular economy beginning this year. And one of the main targets is that we, as a nation, should reduce our material footprint. So, and we are still rising, although we are 6 years working on the circular economy, and before that, working on high quality recycling of materials, not only on textiles, but on several materials. And that reduction of material use means that we have to extend the life cycle. So it's more than only the recycling circular economy. It's about it's about narrowing the loop, which makes that we should reduce our consumption. And I think that will be a challenge also for the industry in Bangladesh. We should have a longer lives of products. So that means that also the garments we use, we should cherish them. We should use them as long as possible. But that means that you have to rethink your business model fundamentally. And there we want to support as a government. We as a government are in that sense also partner in crime to help the industry make that transformation, because it's not easy. And I think that can help, and we had our experience with the denim deal, which was launched 3 years ago. The industry said, well, 20% recycled content in new denim clothing was impossible. And nowadays we talk about it as maybe a minimum standard. But yes, therefore, all industries have to do that. That makes it, all brands should ask for it. It makes it much more easy for the producers to deliver that kind of garments. So it's about new standards in the future, which can be developed also in partnership between public and private parties.
Okay, well, you're saying a lot of things that might possibly also scare a bit the audience, because you're saying reduce consumption. That means it has an effect on the economy. Longer life of production.
It is terrible to hear that a lot of garments which are not sold on the market has to be destroyed or at least recycled. We should prevent to have large volumes of clothing coming to the market which is not sold anyhow. If you look at the effects, all those workers in production countries like Bangladesh, working hard, using a lot of scarce resources, water, by example. And if they end up in, well, nothing, you don't use them.
It's so you're actually also saying the longer term, sometimes it's easy to look at the short term. I mean, if we reduce now consumption, or if we have longer products, and in the short term it will have a negative effect. But you say, just like Kim was saying, we have to look at the longer term, because if we don't do it, then we'll have a bigger problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Priyanka, I think it's maybe also nice to go to you, because Arnoud was saying brands have to ask for it as well. Simon, you have been working with Simon also. He has a startup. He wants to grow. What do you think? What is needed for him to make more impact, and what role can your organization play in this? And maybe we can also zoom in a bit about the role of brands and suppliers here.
Sure. I want to add on to this, Arnold's last comment. I think it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, because while regulation is required, the regulation will only come if solutions are ready. But unfortunately, like the denim deal, the 20% to 30% to 50%, the recycling solutions aren't fully ready at scale yet. And if that doesn't happen, what can regulation do? So I think industry is stuck a bit in that space where solutions need time to mature, but the maturity will come if industry is pulling them along. Suppliers have a role to play, brands have a role to play, regulation has a role to play. And it comes back to the point Eric made in the earlier conversation, collaboration, 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 because if all these actors don't collaborate, how do we make sure the solution gets ready faster?
Yeah.
And then there is actually a role for regulation to play. So that brings me back to what our role is in this ecosystem. At Fashion for Good, what we are looking to do is actually scale these solutions, and which is why we come back to this collaboration point again and again, because the solutions aren't scaling until a supplier starts to work with them regularly and their brands start to work with them regularly. So what our role to support whether upcycle labs and other technologies, whether recycling or processing technologies, new machineries, each of these solutions are required by all of the suppliers to actually reach that net zero, the decarbonization goals that exist. Some can be termed within circularity, some maybe go beyond circularity, going more towards decarbonizing your supply chain, and all of that only happens when we have all these actors working. So I think my key message...
But you're saying working, but I also hear you say they all need to take responsibility.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not just the brands or the government saying this is what's going to happen, because it's about the future in the longer term also.
And this is where the collaboration or digging deeper into what collaboration would mean come in. A supply chain, especially now that we are sitting in best of Bangladesh, it is one of the leaders in the industry. So we do need Bangladesh as an industry to take leadership. It's a leader currently in the manufacturing space. But as someone said in the previous panel, there is vulnerability attached to climate change for Bangladesh. So what we need to counter right now is suppliers taking that leadership, not waiting for solutions to develop or brands to tell them what to do or waiting for European policies to develop, but be proactive, educate yourself. The knowledge is really available everywhere. There are platforms like ours, SAC, Textile Exchange, where you could actually find out what is going on in your own supply chain, try to assess your own impact, and look at what solutions are available. Because that educating yourself and starting to be not resistant to change, but to start incorporating some of the newer solutions that are coming, that is really, really imperative for a supplier to do. But on the other hand, there are the brands. And what brands really need to assist in right now in that collaboration piece is to be able to share that risk with the suppliers. Yeah. At the moment, if newer technologies, newer solutions come in place, all that risk lies with the suppliers. And one of the things that brands need to really pull through is say, this is how we share the risk. Whether it's financial sharing of the risk, whether it's committing to you for a longer term to be able to reduce that risk for you overall. So what collaboration would really look like is initiatives like an innovator talking to a supplier, talking to their brand partners, all coming together and saying, this is how we share the risk to reach this level of implementation or commitment, so that we see that there's a scale coming to the solution, and that scale is your impact, really. And of course, we have investors and governments playing as more facilitating role or sort of enablers, because there is a huge amount of finance required, because none of these solutions that will scale up right now are going to scale up at cost, which means somebody needs to cover that premium, whether that's coming from philanthropy, whether it's coming from impact investments. That's kind of where collaboration comes in.
Yeah, and then I think that's really a nice bridge also to Bob in that sense, because we need money for this. It doesn't come for free, although we sometimes say it does. It gives benefits right away, but that's not true. Bob, you want to invest in impact projects, but it's not always easy. And why is that?
No, thanks for that. No, let me first give a little bit of background of what I'm actually representing. It's the Good Fashion Fund. It's an initiative initiated by Fashion for Good and Lourdes Foundation, really with the aim to support suppliers in Bangladesh and India to adopt equipment that really has an impact in terms of reducing the water, materials, and energy, but at the same time also looking at the social angle. So really all the elements that are important in the apparel sector. And what the fund is doing is a mixture. On the one hand, it's providing finance for already tested technology, so already proven technology. At the same time, also supporting innovations, because I think the way forward is a mixture of that. And I agree with Kim, you have to look at the longer term future. At the same time, we're not there yet. So you also need to look at the solutions that are available, and will be a mixture of that in that respect. Where the unique element of our fund is that we focus on suppliers, on manufacturers. And we talk a lot about innovation, but if you look, for instance, at decarbonization, I think more than half, around 60% or so of the money needed is already an existing solution to decarbonize. So the remainder is innovations, but a lot of money is also needed to deploy already existing methodologies, equipment. And I think there are new initiatives around looking at innovation, looking at new technologies. And for instance, this PDS also mentioned yesterday, I think if you have a collaboration between suppliers and also brands, that works really well to look at those innovations and see what could work longer term. At the same time, no one's really working and looking at these manufacturers, at the suppliers locally. So I think if we go forward and we look at circularity, we look at decarbonization, it's also important that someone's taking care of the manufacturers, because I think, and that's where my point, what you raised to also in the brands come in, because in the longer term, a lot of it is also coming from the suppliers implementing, but realistically speaking, and look at Bangladesh, that's more than 4,000 manufacturers. Only a limited amount of that actually has access to the finance or the knowledge and actually to implement it. So a lot is needed in order to get that money rolling towards these manufacturers. And we're a fund, we're a demonstration fund, but ultimately our goal is that we're no longer needed, because ultimately it needs to be the local financial sector doing it. But in order to do that, I think, in order to reach that, I think it's important that you have the manufacturers operating in a more stable environment. And I think that's where also the brands come in. I think because what you see often in this industry, which is quite different from a lot of other industries, it's fragmented. There's often no direct relationship between the brands and the manufacturing facilities, which you often do so. Here it's not the case, which makes it more difficult, basically, to implement new things in terms of environmental and socially focused initiatives. So really what we would like to see from the brands is have these longer term offtake agreements, because I think that is really changing a lot. Because if I'm a supplier, and we'll hear more, but I'm a supplier, I need to know that there's stability. Otherwise I'm going to go for year after year, and especially if I'm somewhat smaller, I'm not going to make that investment in something if I don't know if I get this real offtake agreement again next year. So I'm only capable of doing that at the time that basically there's a longer term agreement, and I can plan ahead, also from the social point of view, and I think that's the way forward where brands can really play a role.
Yeah, and it's also the shared risk. A lot of the risk, at least in textiles, is down the chain.
It is shared risk. At the same time, I also think that on the financing side, it's not so much circularity, but I think also decarbonization is not going to work if everyone leaves it to the manufacturers or suppliers to make those investments. It's not going to work.
It's maybe a good bridge here. Is it going to work if we just leave it up to you?
Well, I think the point is no longer we can operate in isolation. We all have to connect the dots, and we have to create a we factor instead of I and you factor, because everything have a cost, and every roadmap have some transitional loss which have to be calculated from A to Z, and that have to be distributed to the partners, and they have to the ecosystem have to believe in doing it, just not that being responsible and shifting the role and kind of cushioning each other, because circularity, reduce, recover, recycle, everything has been discussed in many platforms, but talk about who's going to ring the bell and talk about who's been a responsibility. The cotton, Bangladesh steel kind of like more on cotton, right? We talk about diversity, we talk about going more into polyester, but talk about the potential $1 billion recycling into Bangladesh, not shifting to Sweden or many parts of the globe where you put more carbon footprint. So who thought about it? And there is nothing been designed to have the technology awareness, and so there are a scope of work, but it have to be incentivized towards everybody. My customers should not treat them like sitting here in your Europe, but they have to be responsible. See, if I waste a liter of water to produce a denim or a t-shirt, I have to be responsible to be like a partner in crime in pollution. So we are polluting.
Sorry, just to clarify, you mean the brands or the supplier?
I see that there is nothing. We have to treat like an we. There is not me or we, because not him, because here we have to syndicate.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that the cost of this transition or transformation have to be calculated and invested well so that each party survive, because I cannot cannibalize somebody to make sure that I don't get effect.
Yeah, so I think transparency there also,
Absolutely.
and actually
So
listening to each other.
We talk about proper accountability, proper accounting, designing the entire process of transformation, the circularity, and work on every individual's role. We have to have our SWOT analysis, and we have to distribute the responsibility so that we work like a team, not like I and you to separate the responsibility. We have to connect the dots, and we have to connect to electrify the responsibility. It's just like guiding each other. We have to absolutely make the sense distributed when you talk about benefit and ownership.
Yeah, and Priyanka was saying before, maybe the suppliers also maybe need to take a bit more the lead. Don't wait for the brands to ask for it.
I agree.
What do you think? And even though you're
Priyanka is right, but you know what? I say if I set my goal, I have to also have my security. Of course, every entrepreneur has risk, but talk about the basic support in terms of pricing, in terms of creating the demand and making sure that the standardization is going to qualify. Because if my ultimate customer say they wants to use the circular product but not sacrificing the standard, and they do not know how much. If I have a capacity of 50 tons, if I do not have the consumption created of 50 tons, if my customers still want to have those standard performing, my ecosystem have to be educated in terms of acceptability, in terms of my, just now other speakers talk about reducing the consumption. Fully agreed, but we have to design it. We have to protect this universe. We have one single universe to protect. We do not have separate universe to live, right?
Yeah, so and then I will come to you, Arnold. I think if I listen to you, we talk about collaboration. What is that? I mean, it's such a vague word, but I hear you literally say you need to speak with your customers.
We are late.
Yeah, we're late.
We are late.
We need to start now.
We
and
have
your
to
customers
start yesterday.
Yes, that's not possible, unfortunately. But let's say today or after we leave this meeting. Arnoud.
Yes, I recognize this fully. We had the same sort of discussions within the denim deal, where brand owners, retailers, but also the spinners, weavers, manufacturers, sorters and recyclers were part of the discussion, part of the network. And what we saw was that if you talk with each other, between the brand and the supplier, the producer, and you understand each other's difficulties with the change you want to achieve together, then if there's much more understanding, much more transparency in all the aspects of what needs to be changed, then it's easier to talk about sharing the risks, seeing clarity. If you can maybe pay more for the product you want as a brand, and at the same time, innovating together between the supplier and the brand. Yeah. So what we experience is that with that open mind, you can go far, but without understanding each other, it's impossible to make impact. Yeah. Well, it was surprising how we saw that a lot of things were not possible in 3 years ago, and nowadays they say, well, well, maybe this can be the minimum standard.
Yeah, so if I listen to you and also to you, it's about the personal relationship and actually really wanting to understand and not just pushing your ideas or the policies down the chain. So maybe Mustafis for next year, we don't have a panel up here, but we just have workshops where we actually work on something and we walk away with something concrete, maybe to think
Much
about.
Much better.
Priyanka.
I just want to add in, and the fact is, given that solutions will keep developing and things will keep getting better, but we can't wait for a final solution. Yeah. So what we really need in the industry are first movers. We need the people who will, both the brands and suppliers, who will come together, start working together to take the upfront risk with all the other enablers around them to develop those solutions that are then ready for the rest of the market to adopt. And I think where the opportunity for Bangladesh particularly is that it is currently sitting as a leader in this space. So if let's say the top 10% of the suppliers, if not more, are willing to work with their own brands, that is their more leading brands who also want to say that we want to be the first movers, we'll have certain advantages coming out of it, but there's a big risk attached to it also. And how do we share that risk between supplier, technology solutions, financiers, and brands? Of course, brands maybe is a very key word there.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Thank you so much. And we have much more to talk about, but I just want to see if there's any questions from the audience for our panelists. Yeah, I see 2 questions, 3. Maybe we start here? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Archish, and I'm from the textile recycling and waste management sector. So my question is for Arnold, that I wanted to ask about extended producer responsibility. Mm-hmm. It's also something Kim touched upon. I'm just curious, I think it's too soon to ask for results, but which direction do you think it has pushed the brands or the suppliers to take change in, or what kind of reforms has it inspired?
Well, that's difficult to say because the EPR's extended producer responsibility legal framework has been launched only last 1st of July in the Netherlands. But for sure we know that France already had an EPR scheme, and the European Commission is drafting an EPR scheme on textiles for within a couple of years. So the whole of Europe should comply with the EPR scheme. With that said, we already saw in the Netherlands that a lot of brands and retailers saw that the existing model of take, make, waste is not feasible in the future. So they knew they have to change. And we challenged as a government to set up a sector plan, as we called it, in which EPR scheme is included. And the EPR scheme, you can see that as a governmental regulation, but you can see it also because you create a fund that it is more a collective innovation mechanism where all the brands, large and small, can work together in the supply chain, in the value chain, to change the concept and to change business models, material use, other kinds of quality assurance to change the whole model of fashion in the future. So we don't know what the exact effect is of the EPR scheme right now, but for sure the fact that it is coming, and it's coming also to Europe, and more countries worldwide talk about EPR schemes nowadays, that will be the standard. And it's normal that you have to think on of the future of your own business and your own sector.
Yeah, and that's a bit what Kim was saying,
so
right?
So it's, I'm very hopeful in this kind.
Yeah, and that's a bit what Kim was saying. If the solar panels, you also have to think about the waste. You cannot just produce it, but you have to think about the future. Yeah. Do we still have a few minutes? I have 2 more. 1 more question. Okay. I'm sorry, Matthijs. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
it work? Yeah.
Yeah.
My name is Giovanni, and of the company Forward in Fashion, and I'm a sector expert in the apparel industry. And I'm a little bit skeptical on the circular economy because I see so many technical limitations. And we are working so hard, and the set standards by the government and legislation, I don't think we're able to achieve them. So what my question is, wouldn't it be much smarter if we would all focus on biodegradable, zero-impact alternatives instead of looking for circular solutions?
I think Kim maybe would want to respond to that.
I'm certainly triggered by your question, yes. Well, first of all, some people argue that the technologies actually are available. It's just that we're not doing them. We don't have the mindset yet and the attitudes and the behavioral change that is needed to actually apply them. So I would also question the first part of your inquiry right there. But yes, my answer would be to the second part, a full yes. So definitely, let's look at the opportunities to create more bio-based materials for fashion and textiles. Get away from the microplastics in our underwear and stuff. So I think there are manifold opportunities there and exciting ones, really, really exciting ones. Yes. So please, yeah.
But
Two more questions.
May I say something about it? Because bio-based plastics is okay, or bio-based materials. So it's also about hemp, etc. But biodegradable, then you destroy a lot of valuable materials. So we are not in favor of biodegradable materials at all. That would be a waste of materials, a waste of energy, a lot of destruction of value. So don't go that way.
Okay. Maybe continue the conversation afterwards. I hear we still have room for 2 questions. Yeah.
May I?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I think my question would be to Kim. So while we do discuss about circularity, sometimes we don't look into the LCA angle. I mean, every product has its life cycle assessment, and sometimes it could be happen like, for the sake of circularity, maybe it brings or incur more emissions. I think it has to be informed, steps, because just for the sake of circularity, if we do circularity and if we don't do the proper life cycle assessment, that could be a challenge. That's one of the concern or question to you. Another is about the business of the circularity.
So I'm just going to ask you one question, because otherwise we're not going to be able to.
It's a very simple thing. So the fashion industry bloomed based on the concept of fast fashion. So now people get used to fast fashion, and now we have to produce products at a lower cost. Now, if you ask and go for a slower fashion, are consumers ready to pay more for that?
If you complete the question, you have 2 in 1.
First of all, introduce myself. My name is Panos Sofianos. I work on sustainability the last 35 years. I come from the sector. I hear you all talking, and I feel that it's me. And I feel so proud of you guys, because what you're saying is exactly what is missing. But the gap is still huge. It's about the mindset we have about clothing. Patagonia started a campaign, don't buy the jacket. Why? Because they understood what they were doing with the microfibers all those years. Polluting. Now, to be realistic, one thing that is missing is the mindset. We need to change the way that we buy clothes. And this gentleman said, it's not biodegradability that will help us, because we are destroying the molecules, and then we have something which is defective. We don't have to degrade things. We have to add more longevity to the product. And this, according to me, it's not a question, it's not trying to fulfill this discussion. It's about the mindset we had and creating needs. Please try to remember what was the last time you bought something that you really needed. This is it. This is because we are cultivating an egoism, something which is so selfish. because we don't know what is what we are hurting deeply, this environment.
So if I understand, it's not a question, it's a remark. We also need to think about the mindset.
The final question is how we can correlate fast fashion with production and with the protection of the environment.
Yeah.
If we still have
That's a little bit what Sir was saying.
This is my question.
Yeah.
This is an oxymoron. We cannot talk about sustainability at the moment that we have giants coming from China that they're producing billions of clothing.
No.
This is my question.
No.
Can we try to help things? Because you said we should start from yesterday.
Yeah, I think a really valid point. Who would like to respond to this remark question?
Well, I want to say one thing. Some innovators of bio-based textile materials actually say that it's not such a problem to have fast fashion, because if you make a jacket out of mycelium or algae or seaweed or whatever, and you wear it only 5 times and then you bury it in your vegetable garden, that's okay. Then fast fashion should not be a problem, actually. So, there's different ways to look at it. Of course, longevity is super important, but people also still want to consume. So it's a multi-layered issue.
And if I may just add on, I think it always comes back to education. We are here 100 people that are aware and doing something about it, and this is more on the industry side. But there are so many other organizations that need to also start making that education on the consumer side. There isn't still enough work happening, and there isn't still enough messaging reaching the day-to-day consumer who's buying 50 items a year, that this is not the right sustainable option. And unfortunately, the way our communication, the messaging, fashion, cinema, everything is leading us towards overconsumption. So I think that is a separate conversation that, of course, has to be handled at the brand level too, to say how do we cut down? Yeah. How do we develop, let's say, resale within the brands? Lots of work happening around it. A lot of brands are now starting to test out to say, how do we take our products back and resell them, have like a second-hand platform going on. We've seen examples in Europe. Unfortunately, it hasn't picked up across the world yet because there isn't as much legislation pressure yet on it. But once that comes in, we know they would be looking at less production and more recirculating their own products. But the other part of the initiative really has to be consumers being educated. Netherlands still sits at a space which is probably some of the most sustainable consumers. They are happy to pay a little extra. But currently across the world, the consumption or consumers' mindset is there's so much extra that we have to pay for sustainability, and not everybody is always willing to or bought into the idea. So how do we change the communication narrative around it? And I think this is where we need to go to the mainstream fashion industry, the cinemas, everybody making the messaging around it.
Yeah. So I think that's a nice combination of the mindset and the narrative and the education.
I just want to add a few things.
We have so much to say. I feel a bit nervous because Matthijs also has a question still.
We are kind of like I go back to my own word that we have to sit down together, not on isolates. And we have to believe, and we have to really do a research, just not about we design the product and we say that what our focus is to sell well and get the profit. So instead of doing that, if we can anticipate the goal or common goal to save this planet and understand the strategies to design not just the shape and color or the material, but have an ultimate sustainable planet, to understand the niche need of individuals, not individual, the collective initiative to save. And all this strategy have to have a cost, and that have to be designed as well to share by every partner, just not having said that the suppliers are responsible for designing how he's going to recycle, but it is an equal responsibility who is also utilizing in terms of material or in selling the goods in the store or wearing the product from the store. So everybody have to echo the same thing, and transition has a cost to have the complete transformation until we achieve the global goal.
Yeah. I actually think that's quite a nice summary. Matthijs, did you really have a burning question that you don't want to leave this room without having asked it? Or have we covered it? Yeah? Okay, because I have to look at the time. I just would like to summarize really quickly. I mean, we've discussed a lot of things, and when we talked about collaboration, but it's about education, not just here, but it's about education in the whole value chain. We need to understand each other and actually connect to understand what does the other need to make the steps to have the end goal in sight. Funding for impact is very important. Today we've heard a lot of examples about funding, and I hope this will also reach the Bangladeshi supplier that they are there. We need the brands to take the responsibility. We need the suppliers to take the responsibility because it's a joint effort. And I think, yeah, maybe the most important thing that I take away now is it's a combination of the short and the longer term goal. I mean, we cannot stop and drop everything right now because there's businesses, there's people in these businesses that we're responsible for, but we also need to keep the longer term in sight. I hope that you leave this room a bit inspired, and I would like to invite you to continue the conversation outside during drinks afterwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, honorable panelists. Thank you so much. May I kindly request all of you to come forward for a group photo. Before concluding this session, may I kindly request all of the panelists, please sit, because we have a little occasion about signing the Memorandum of Understanding, MOUs, between Bangladesh Apple Exchange and Fashion for Good. Please take your seats for this ceremony. Thank you. May I kindly request on stage Mr. Musafir Uddin on behalf of Bangladesh Apple Exchange for signing this MOU. Thank you. Ms. Priyanka Khanna, please come forward. May I kindly request you to come forward for signing this MOU? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please give a round of applause for all of our panelists. Thank you for your brilliant performance. Thank you. বলছি ভাইয়া তোলা Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw the curtains on the extraordinary two-day journey through the Best of Bangladesh event, I stand before you with a heart full of gratitude and inspiration. These 2 days have been a testament to the immense potential, rich culture, and innovative spirit of Bangladesh. I want to express my deepest appreciation to our esteemed speakers, panelists, and performers, and of course, you, the audience. Without your participation, this event couldn't be successful. Thank you so much. I also want to extend a heartfelt thanks to the organizing team and all the individuals who have worked tirelessly behind the scene to make this event a resounding success. Your dedication and passion are the driving force behind the Best of Bangladesh. Thank you so much. As we live here today, let us carry with us memories of this event and the connections we have forged. Let us continue to build bridges, foster collaborations, and explore new horizons together. The Best of Bangladesh is not just an event, it's a movement towards a brighter future. Thank you once again for being a part of the Best of Bangladesh in Europe 2023. Before concluding, we have 2 short films to enjoy. Paint on Dry Leaf by Fuaduzzaman Fuad and I'm Time by Mahdi Hassan. I hope you will enjoy. Until we meet again, take care and stay inspired. And remember, mark your calendar for the 2nd edition of Best of Bangladesh, which will take place on 11 and 12 September 2024 at Westergas in Amsterdam. Thank you. We can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much.
সময় দ্রুত শেষ হয়ে আসে। মোমবাতি, চারকোল, মানুষের বয়স সবই এক সময় শেষ হয়। গাছের শাখা প্রশাখা একদিন ধূসর, কঠিন ও ভঙ্গুর হয়ে যায়। চলে যাওয়ার সময় স্রোতকে আমরা ধরে রাখতে চাই। আমরা তখন নতজানু হই আলোকচিত্রের কাছে। একমাত্র আলোকচিত্রই থামিয়ে দিতে পারে সময়ের চলে যাওয়াকে। আলোকচিত্রকে আমার বেহেশতের মতো সময়হীন এক পৃথিবী বলে মনে হয়। বেহেশতে সময় বলে কিছু থাকবে না, মানুষ অনন্তকাল সেখানে বেঁচে থাকবে। বেহেশত কি কোনো সময়হীন পৃথিবী আলোকচিত্রের মতো? আমরা অতীতের কথা বলি, আজকের কথা বলি, ভবিষ্যতের কথা বলি। অতীত আর ভবিষ্যতের মাঝের জায়গাটা বালুর দেয়াল বলে মনে হয়। যে দেয়ালের একটা অংশ খুব দ্রুত ঝরে পড়ছে আর অন্য অংশ তৈরি হচ্ছে প্রতিনিয়ত। বালুর দেয়ালে দাঁড়িয়ে থাকতে ভয় হয়, ভেঙে পড়ার ভয়, ক্ষয় হয়ে যাওয়ার ভয়, সময় শেষ হয়ে যাওয়ার সময় যেমন মোমবাতি কিংবা বরফ ক্ষয় হয়ে যায়। শৈশবে আমরা আমাদের ছোট্ট সিন্ধুকে জমিয়ে রাখি মাটির পুতুল, খেলনা গাড়ি, রঙিন মার্বেল। একদিন আমরা বুড়িয়ে যাই, আমাদের রং বেরঙের সব মার্বেল তখন গড়িয়ে যায় স্রোতস্বিনী নদীর পথে। আমার কাছে একটা পুরনো ডায়েরি আছে, 1987 সালের ডায়েরি। ডায়েরিতে সেঁটে রাখা একটা খয়েরি কাঁঠাল পাতা, 27 বছর আগের কাঁঠাল পাতায় লেখা কবিতার কিছু লাইন। আলোকচিত্র আর গাছের পাতারা সময় ও স্মৃতিকে ধরে রাখতে চায়। আমরা আমাদের চারপাশে সময়ের চলে যাওয়াকে দেখতে পাই। আমাদের শৈশব, নদী, বার্ধক্য, মৃত্যু সবই চলে যায়। আমরা চলে যাওয়া সময়কে ধরে রাখতে চাই। সময়কে ধরে রাখার অবিরাম আয়োজন আমাদের, অনুপস্থিতকে ধরে রাখার আয়োজন। সময় প্রাচীন নুয়ে পড়া এক বৃদ্ধার মতো বসে থাকে, তার বলিরেখা জুড়ে কেবল ফাটল আর ফাটল, অন্ধ ফাটল। আমরা সেই অন্ধকারে পথ হারিয়ে ফেলি। আমরা অন্ধের মতো তখন স্পর্শ করি আমাদের আমরা তখন আমাদের জন্মকে ছুঁয়ে দেখি। কখনো কখনো সময়কে অনিশ্চিত এক গুহা বলে মনে হয়, যে গুহায় ৩০৯ বছর ঘুমিয়েছিল ৭ জন তরুণ। তারা ভেবেছিল তারা ঘুমিয়েছে একদিন কিংবা তার চেয়ে কম সময়। সময় তাদের সাথে লুকোচুরি খেলেছে, সময় আমার সাথেও লুকোচুরি খেলেছে, কিংবা এখনো খেলছে, কিংবা খুব শীঘ্রই খেলবে নতুন কোনো ইন্দ্রজালিক খেলা।